Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us during the Lytham Partners Fall 2024 Investor Conference. My name is Ben Shamsian, Vice President at Lytham Partners. During this presentation and fireside chat webcast, I'm excited to welcome Hub Cyber Security, ticker symbol HUBC on the NASDAQ. Joining us today from the company is Noah Hershkowitz, Chief Executive Officer. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that management is available for one-on-one meetings throughout the conference. If you have not already signed up and would like to schedule a one-on-one meeting, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com or visit our conference website. With that said, Noah, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'm glad to be here. Hub Cyber Security. So imagine that probably 10 years ago, or even like 5 years ago, if an individual would like to open an account with a bank, would probably need probably like two A4 pages or just like a fax to his a teller or bank. That's pretty much it, right? Like it's like it won't be too complicated or too sophisticated or too savvy to just like open a bank account. An individual or enterprise will have just like a few documents and a credit score to back whatever they are doing. Nowadays, things are totally different. The perfect storm of big data leads to something which is an AI-generated data explosion with an unprecedented volumes of data overwhelming traditional systems. The regulatory pressure is pretty much the same, right? If the regulatory the regulator would ask for a certain scrutiny 10 years ago, is asking for the same thing right now, although the amount of data and identity theft and just like bombarding the banks, and it's totally different. But the banks needs to meet the same standards, and it's expensive. It's really expensive and creates a huge exposure. Data silos and fragmentation, struggles with integrating diverse data sources, and the need for real-time insights, which is pretty much the idea of like, how do you know if an individual is exactly who he is, and like if it's not like just like another way of hacking or as I mentioned, like an identity theft kind of thing. Hub Technologies and what we do, we unify all data and take care of all scalability support. We support right now banks and other financial institutes in their struggle to meet regulatory standards, and pretty much reduce the cost of ownership for those specific solutions. We're trading in the NASDAQ since March of 23. Before that, we were trading in Tel Aviv. What we do is we have a secured data fabric platform that is pretty much the idea of a product, not an idea, but a product that is consolidating huge amount of data. In the example of like a decent sized bank, we're talking about 650 different data silos, cross-referencing with another 1,150 different data silos. That's like an example, a real example for one of our clients. Our ability to scale is almost endless, just like adding more silos into it. So our secure data fabric product is the combination between the data fabric itself, which is consolidating the data, plus a military grade security that is part of Hub's legacy cybersecurity business. We have a robust IT services arm with more than 300 experts servicing in different IT and cybersecurity consulting silos with I would say as our firepower, we have like more than 500 different clients, and that we are acting with most of them as trusted advisors. So that creates kind of the ability for us to really know and for them to trust us on what we are doing. So as I mentioned, two different silos, and the product silo and the IT service arm or the consulting. We're servicing those clients with services like penetration tests and incident response and all sort of different way to protect our clients. With regards to revenues, last year revenues, and that's the company also has a strategic joint venture with a company called Black Swan, which is right now probably one of the leaders on the most advanced data fabrics worldwide. As far as I understand, the company understands, really top-notch company that has the ability to secure and to acquire over the last 12 months. The company is operating in 6 different jurisdictions, as you can see, and those are few of our logos, just like probably handful of half a dozen logos that are as our clients. As I mentioned, 2 business lines. The legacy IT service arm, which is some of those companies are our clients for more than 20 years, really, like companies like Visa and Lockheed Martin and Boeing that are working with the company since forever. We know them, we're working with them, and they're growing and stable all over those years. As a legacy IT services, we will anticipate around 15% on the margin side for those revenues. If we're looking at kind of like on over the last 24 months or so, this service arm was generating around $50 million in 22 and around 42.5 in 23, as I mentioned before. And we are cash flow positive on a monthly basis on this arm with 15 to 20% margin. On top of the service arm, as I mentioned, we are building, or the company has kind of like topping our product arm. The idea and the synergy is that we are cross-selling, upselling to those clients our product, our secure data fabric, and then starting to offset or starting to change the balance on the blend between the service and the product. The product arm has a much bigger margin, much more meat on this bone. We're looking at more than 80% margin on the product arm. And so what we should anticipate over the next few years is a total kind of like change or transformation of the blend between the service and the product. If we would see kind of like 100% on the service side over the last couple of years, we will see the trend changes to 20 and 30 and 50% over the next 24 to 36 months. And that should leave a pretty significant EBITDA margin on our P&L. So what is exactly our secure data fabric and what exactly we do? So in essence, we are harnessing the full potential of an enterprise data. So imagine if you're a bank, you have more than 600 different data silos. Those are your Oracle, those are your SAPs, your Salesforce. All those data silos just like pushing data into the system, but this data is not unified and it's very hard to communicate with. So imagine the ability of you communicating with your ThinkPad, with your computer, with all sort of different files, right? We have like Word files and spreadsheets and PowerPoint and all like kind of videos, and you would like to try to figure out or harness data or ideas or results based on the entire spectrum. That's pretty much what we're doing for the banks. We are unifying those data silos, and we are allowing the bank to operate on a unified level. So that's in that essence, we're creating a very interesting control and personalized asset management system, and we are providing the bank with a knowledge graph to be able to kind of like understand what is in this in those data silos. And the idea is that we are cross-referencing this data with like pretty much as many other outside the organization outsourced data that the company wants. Just to make sure that like we all understand, it's like the ability to cross-reference the data from the organization with data outside the organization. So in the example that I gave for one use case, which is KYC in a bank would like to understand who is exactly John Doe based on the specific data that the company has, the bank has, and cross-reference it with whatever, LexisNexis and BDI or the Interpol kind of like data, and understand who is this exact individual or company, and all the data referred to it on an ongoing basis. So that is our secure data fabric. That is the trend right now in the big data sector. The world is moving from something that is called data lake to a process that is called data fabric. If in right hand side you can see the example of like how a data lake would look like, which is technically, again, to simplify this process, think about or imagine the ability to control A, control V, the entire data from a bank to a data lake, which will be a cloud or another data repository. In this cloud or other data repository, engineers will start like massaging the data and start like unifying the data to be able to apple them or unify them, and then upload it to a central data layer. A good example for this process will be, for example, Palantir. That's exactly the process of like moving the data from one place to a data repository and then uploading the entire process to, in that example, a Palantir a platform. Obviously, great company, the leader in this in this sector, but this process will be very expensive. In the example of like a medium to large size bank, this will take like probably 3 to 4 years and something around $250 to $300 million process. And I would say that like for a bank to have like engineers massaging the data or going to kind of like intimate with the data is a very big exposure. What we are providing is an alternative situation when we are not moving the data from one place to another, just creating a layer, a software layer on top of the data silos, and then fetching the data, kind of like plumbers, if you like, from the data silos, and contextualize this process with the exact application that the environment the company would look like or would look for. In the example of the KYC, a bank will just like fetch the relevant data to directed to a specific individual, and then, as I mentioned, cross-reference it with other data and do it on a real-time basis. This is like a huge advantage, or a very interesting and very compelling solution for the banks and for our clients. So why secure data fabric for financial service organization? We tapped into some of the reason why is it like a perfect storm for us to charge and gain a material kind of like a sector leadership. Compliance is a big issue right now. Adding this with like the huge amount of data that is bombarding right now the market and the sectors with Gen AI issues that like an organization has to have. Again, going back to the same example of a KYC, this process has to be has to go constantly, meaning that the bank has to be able to constantly do a KYC on a perpetual basis. Usually what we'll see with our clients is that they will identify roughly, again, on the example of like a medium to large size bank, they'll identify around 1 million medium to high risk clients that, regardless of like how new they are to the environment, they will have to go on a perpetual KYC process on an annual basis. And based on what the result will be, they will create kind of like a different decision-making process, or they're started a different decision-making process for the bank. Depends on the credit, depends on like the bank standards or whatever you. As I mentioned, we have a strategic partnership with a company called Black Swan. Black Swan is pretty much kind of like, as I mentioned, one of the leader in this sector. We foresee that like over the next 12 months, AB will try to gain full ownership on this company. Right now, this JV allows us freedom to operate. We have the preference, or the first $10 million that are coming to the company are going to the JV is going to Hub Security, and we would like to see this acquisition going through over the next 12 months. We have an option to exercise or to complete this acquisition, as I mentioned. This is probably one of the most interesting slides in this presentation, or for sure, if I had to choose like one important slide, this will be it. This slide was created by one of the world strategic integrators, one of the bigger guys, the bigger groups. This shows exactly how Hub and our secure data fabric creates an alternative solution to the rest of the vendors. So it's not that we are better than Splunk or Tetaray or Contexta or any of the other guys on the under logos on the right side of this table. We're just like making them redundant, meaning that if you are using us, you don't need to use the other names. We don't have a forklift strategy, so there's no need for the client to replace them. I'm actually kind of like calling this strategy a messy strategy, right? Like we're making everybody on the field better than they are, or Ronaldo strategy if you're more a Portugal guy. But we're making the rest of the players on the field better. We then have something that is called, or I call, a technology Darwinism, which will allow us to down the road convince our clients there's no need for the rest of the logos, because pretty much whatever you can do with most of those guys, most of those names, it's pretty easy to do with our platform. The process is very similar to the process of like moving from the old Norton or this kind of like operating system to Windows. Low code, no code environments, pretty easy to work ahead. And that's a very important slide. Our competition with regards to kind of like who do we see in the field? So mostly we're replacing homegrown solutions. Most of the banks trying to solve this problem themselves. They've invested some of those banks like more than tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars over the last years in order to solve this problem. We see them on an ongoing basis, and we are working with them to replace one of like or two of our European banks is good examples for exactly that. Other solutions that we see in the field are very similar to the names that we've seen here, which are more I would say kind of like niche or specific sector solutions, very with very specific specialty. We are more platform oriented. We are more sector agnostic in that essence. Moving forward with regards to the banking sector, or we spend a significant time of this presentation discussing banks, but Hub isn't a fintech company in a way. What if I need to kind of like sectorize Hub at the moment? We are more a regtech company, reducing the cost of ownership for sectors, for clients that has like an expensive cost of ownership in order to meet the regulator standards. Banks are very easy to penetrate for us right now. Our business model for them is very compelling, and we found ourselves with like a big chunk of banking clients, the biggest that you can anticipate, and we have a lot of a pretty significant pipeline right now growing with those with this sector. But down the road, we'll see insurance companies, we'll see pharma companies, we see governments with BI. Those are all companies that will foresee over the last 12 to 24 months, clients that are in the process and in advanced negotiation stages with our sales department. Understanding how we operate, I'll choose maybe one business case in that essence, which is that's an interesting case study from one of our banks. And as you can see, we foresee around 20 million euros, 15 to 20 million euros annually. Breaking down this number, you will the way that like the reverse engineer how we'll see this number coming through on an annual basis, it's actually roughly $18 or 18 euros actually in that essence, 18 euros per case that is going through our system. And as I mentioned, usually a bank will have, in this case, more than 850,000 cases that the bank identified as medium to high risk that will have to go through a perpetual KYC process. So we foresee roughly 15 to 20 million euros, on an annual basis coming from this specific use case. There is for sure a ramp-up process, meaning that this is taking time. We're talking about like a client is already deployed and announced, and so but usually this process will take time. We've been deployed. Our solution is deployed with this client since January, February. So there's a process to kind of like to ramp up till we get to a normalized level on an annual basis. 20 million, 50 to 20 million euros a year on SaaS margins. So you would anticipate roughly 80% and more on those revenues. Another case study that I would like to share is kind of like our go-to right now, which is Hub 360. This is us going into a new bank, in this essence, 3 different banks, and doing like a full facelifting of those banks from assessing the entire process. Think about like an Accenture-like a strategic advisory process, and then integrating our core banking processes together with Black Swan, this data fabric, secure data fabric processes, sorry, and our cybersecurity assessment, penetration test, and whatever. And then the third part will be integrating the rest of the roughly 600 different integrators to the system. And I foresee that actually the third part will be very, very, very profitable for us. We see roughly 55% and more margin on those kind of deals, and we have few of those deals in process. This one specifically is a very advanced negotiation process. How do we grow? So it's not like a generic slide from one of the MBAs, one of the global MBAs. We have the ability to grow organically and really unorganically, but organically through cross-selling and upselling to our current client base from the service arm. And then we'll foresee ourselves taking over other P&Ls globally. We foresee ourselves doing so in the US right now. Roughly, I would say more than 90% of our revenues are coming from outside the US. So most of our revenues is still coming from Europe, and a certain percentage coming from Israel and the rest of the world. But US is still a market that the company didn't penetrate yet, and we foresee this coming most likely from acquiring a local company and integrating our product towards that. My management, a lot of successful track record and experience coming from my team, which I'm very lucky to be able to tie into my vision. Interesting advisory board, not just a figurehead. I would say those individuals with a lot of experience are very, very involved in what we are doing. Kerry, as the head of the CIA in Europe, is helping us to penetrate into very large organizations in the US. Penetrate meaning business penetrate, not like CIA penetrate, but helping us to kind of create a lot of business in the region, together with John and Mr. Tony Tata. The company right now is trading at one-time EV. As you can see right now, it's like far below the sector in the peer, and I will leave you with the numbers. But obviously, it's an interesting situation right now with regards to where we trade and our peers. With regards to our financial and year-end numbers, we right now have only our 23 numbers out to discuss, and so we foresee that we will be able to get our Q2 numbers out over the next few weeks. But as you can see, our revenues in 23 were $42.6 million, 42 and change. We had an offset of revenues coming from a pretty significant MOD contract that was pushed from 23 to 24 because of the war, and we foresee this deal coming kind of like to fruition this year, and that's kind of like overall where we see the company. As I mentioned, what you should anticipate from us over the next probably 12 to 24 services to product, and I foresee going to something around 50% each over the next 24 to 36 months. At this level, the company is very, very profitable. What else we want to speak about? We have 30 million shares outstanding, and on a fully diluted basis, the company is at $26.5 million. Over the next 18 months or so, we're most likely want to see the company penetrating the US. I would say like changing the blend of revenues and penetrating the US as a new fresh sector and market for us is where we see the company growing significantly through organic and inorganic growth. In summary, so Secure Data Fabric, I think up until now, when it stood kind of like what is the advantage, why now, and what is the perfect zone that we're tapping into. It's a very interesting blend between long-term client base coming from our IT service that we are right now cross-selling and upselling to the Secure Data Fabric. Global footprint is already in 6 different jurisdictions. Very interesting blue chip customers that we're working with in order to penetrate and grow our market leadership, our sector leadership and dominance. That's us. Thank you very much. I will be happy to have meetings with like whoever. Looking forward.
All right. Well, thank you, Noah. Thank you for your time today. Certainly found the information informative and useful, and hoping our audience will as well. Just quick reminders. Anyone out there looking to sign up for a one-on-one meeting with Hub, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com, SHAMSIAN@lythampartners.com. And lastly, we have a number of additional webcasted fireside chats coming up today. Please visit the conference homepage and access the presentations from there. With that, Noah, thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.